The Vex drones moved through the valley like metal spiders. Their red eyes scanned the rocks and trees. They knew their target was close. Jake watched them from behind a boulder. 30 drones, just like Zara had said. Each one was the size of a small car with weapons that could cut through steel. They moved in perfect formation, no wasted motion, no mistakes. But Jake knew their weakness. He had fought them before, in another life. Vex drones were smart, but they thought like machines. They followed patterns. Humans did not. He held up 3 fingers to Zara, then 2, then 1. The first drone exploded in a ball of fire. Jake's shot had hit its power core perfectly. The other drones turned toward his position, but he was already moving, running low between the rocks, using the landscape like a shield. Zara fired from the other side of the valley. Her shot took out another drone. She had learned to shoot like a human during the long years of waiting, fast and accurate. The drones spread out to hunt them. This was their mistake. Jake had wanted them to spread out. Divided, they were easier to kill. He moved like a ghost through the rocks. His enhanced body let him run faster and jump higher than any normal human. But it was his mind that made him dangerous. He thought 3 steps ahead of his enemies. One drone came around a rock face. Jake was waiting for it. His rifle punched through its armor like paper. The drone fell and did not get up. Another drone found Zara's position. It fired at her hiding spot, turning the rocks to dust. But she was already gone, moving to a new position. Jake had taught her this trick centuries ago, in the days when they were both young and hopeful. The battle lasted 20 minutes. When it was over, 30 Vex drones lay broken in the valley. Jake and Zara stood among the wreckage, breathing hard, but unhurt. "You still fight like a human," Zara said. "It's all I know how to do," Jake replied. They gathered supplies from the cave. Zara had stored food, water, and equipment for this day. She had also saved other things, personal things that made Jake's chest tight with old pain. She showed him a picture of Earth, blue skies and white clouds, green forests and deep oceans. It was beautiful in a way that hurt to look at. "What does it look like now?" Jake asked. Zara was quiet for a long time. "Gray," she said finally. "The sky is gray. The oceans are black. The hegemony stripped everything useful from the planet. Then they built factories where the cities used to be." Jake put the picture in his pocket. "And the people? The ones who lived work in the factories. 16 hours a day. They make weapons and ships for the hegemony. Their children are taken away when they turn 10, trained to be workers or soldiers. Do they remember? Some do. The older ones still tell stories about the time before, about freedom and democracy and human rights, but the young ones don't understand these words anymore." Jake picked up another item from Zara's collection. It was a letter, written in familiar handwriting. His sister Katie had sent it to him just before the last battle. "You kept this," he said. "I kept everything I could find," Zara said. "Pictures, letters, books, music. I wanted to remember what humans were like, what they stood for." Jake read the letter. Katie wrote about her children, about her hope that the war would end soon, about how proud she was of her brother. She had died 2.5 centuries ago. Her children were dust. Her grandchildren had never been born. "I'm the last one," Jake said. "The last human who remembers what we used to be." "No," Zara said. "You are not alone." She activated a small device. A hologram appeared in the air between them. It showed the face of a middle-aged man with scars on his cheek. "This is Commander Voss," Zara said. "He leads the Remnant Coalition. They are the ones who still fight against the hegemony." The hologram spoke. "If you are seeing this message, then the human warrior has awakened. We have been waiting for this day for a very long time." Jake stared at the image. "Who is he?" "An Altarian. His people were conquered 50 years after humans. But before they fell, human soldiers taught them how to fight, how to think like humans. Voss was one of their students." The hologram continued. The coalition has cells on 47 worlds. We are not strong enough to fight the hegemony directly, but we keep the memory of freedom alive. We teach others what humans taught us. How many? Jake asked. Maybe 10,000 active fighters, Zara said. But millions more who support us quietly. They remember what humans did, how humans never gave up, even when they were outnumbered 100-1. Jake looked at the wreckage of the Vex drones. 10,000 fighters against the hegemony. Those are not good odds. Humans faced worse odds, Zara said. At the Battle of Proxima, 300 humans held off 10,000 Vex for 6 days. At the Siege of New Athens, 50 human ships fought 201, and we still lost the war. You lost the battles, Zara said. But you won something more important. You showed the galaxy that freedom was worth dying for, that individuals mattered more than the group, that even the smallest person could make a difference. Jake sat down on a broken rock. The weight of being the last human pressed down on him like a mountain. They want me to be a symbol, he said, a reminder of what humans used to be. You are more than a symbol, Zara said. You are a teacher. There are things you know that no one else remembers, ways of thinking that died with Earth. She showed him another hologram. This one showed young fighters from different species. Some had blue skin like Zara, others had gray skin or green skin or no skin at all, but they all moved the same way, talked the same way, fought the same way. They learned this from studying recordings of human soldiers, Zara said. But recordings can only teach so much. They need someone who lived it, someone who can show them what it really means to be human. Jake watched the young fighters practicing with weapons, working together despite their differences. It reminded him of his old unit, humans from different countries and cultures, fighting side by side for something bigger than themselves. The hegemony rules through fear, Zara continued. They tell everyone that resistance is hopeless, that individuals are weak, that the only way to survive is to obey. And you want me to prove them wrong. I want you to remind the galaxy what humans proved every day, that one person with courage can inspire thousands, that freedom is not given by governments or kings, it lives in the heart of every thinking being. Jake stood up. His decision was made. Not because he wanted to fight again, but because his friends had died for something important. Their sacrifice meant nothing if no one remembered what they had died for. Where do we start? He asked. Zara smiled. It was the first real smile he had seen from her since waking up. We start by doing what humans do best, she said. We take a hopeless situation and find a way to win. They left the valley as the sun was setting. Behind them, the Vex drones lay silent and broken. Ahead of them, the galaxy waited for its first lesson in being human again. The cave was dark and cold. Water dripped from the rocks above. Deep inside the mountain, where no light had touched for 250 years, something was about to change. Zara pressed her blue hands against the smooth metal surface of the pod. Her silver markings glowed softly in the darkness. She had watched over this place for so long. Her people lived for centuries, but even for her, this had been a very long time. The ground shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. They had found her hiding place at last. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls. The ancient symbols lit up one by one. She had hoped this day would never come. She had hoped the galaxy would find peace without him. But peace had not come. The war was getting worse. The pod made a soft humming sound. Steam came out from the sides. Inside, the man began to move. His chest rose and fell. His eyes opened slowly. Jake Collins looked up at the ceiling of the cave. His body felt strange, his mind was foggy. The last thing he remembered was the battle, the screaming, the fire, his friends dying around him. "Where am I?" he asked. His voice was rough. He had not spoken for a very long time. Zara looked down, at him. Her large eyes were sad. "You are safe," she said. "You have been sleeping." Jake tried to sit up. His body was strong, stronger than he remembered. The military doctors had changed him before the war, made him faster and tougher, but this felt different, like he had been sleeping for a very long time. "How long?" he asked. Zara did not answer right away. She helped him out of the pod. His legs were shaky at first, but they quickly became steady. The enhancement in his body was working well. "How long, Zara?" he asked again. He remembered her now. The blue woman who had tried to make peace between the humans and the others. The one who had found him bleeding in the ruins of New Olympia. 250 years, she said quietly. Jake stared at her. The words did not make sense. "That's not possible." "It is true," Zara said. "I put you in the pod to save your life. Your body was dying. This was the only way." Jake looked around the cave. He saw his uniform hanging on the wall, clean and mended. His weapons were there too. Everything was exactly as he remembered it. "The war," he said. "My unit, the Omega Squadron, where are they?" Zara's silver markings dimmed. She looked away from him. "Tell me," Jake said. His voice was harder now, like a soldier giving an order. "The war is over," Zara said. "Earth fell 3 months after I brought you here. The hegemony won." Jake felt like the ground was falling away under his feet. "That's impossible. We were winning. The defense of Titan was holding. Earth had the best military in the galaxy." "The hegemony was stronger," Zara said. "Much stronger than anyone knew. They destroyed 17 human worlds in 1 year. They turned Earth into a factory planet. Most humans are slaves now. The rest are dead." Jake sat down hard on a rock. His hands shook. Not from weakness, but from anger. "You should have let me die with my unit. A soldier doesn't run from the last battle." "I could not let you die," Zara said. "I knew the galaxy would need you again someday. I was right." "Need me for what? If Earth is gone, if my people are dead, what's left to fight for?" Zara knelt down next to him. "Hope," she said. "For 250 years I have watched the galaxy grow darker. The hegemony rules everything now, but people remember, the humans. They remember how you fought. They remember that you never gave up even when everything was lost." "Stories," Jake said. "That's all we are now. Stories." "Stories can be powerful," Zara said. "Your defense of the Titan colonies is still told on a dozen worlds. The way you held the line at New Olympia inspired 3 different rebellions. The hegemony fears your name even now." Jake looked at his hands. They were steady now, strong. The same hands that had held weapons against impossible odds. The same hands that had pulled wounded soldiers to safety. But all those soldiers were dust now. "Why wake me now?" he asked. The ground shook again, stronger this time. Zara stood up and moved to the cave entrance. She listened carefully. "Because they found us," she said. "My people told them about this place. They are coming for you." Jake stood up. His body moved like a machine. All the training came back to him at once. "How many?" "A full Vex scouting force. Maybe 30 drones. They want to capture you alive." Jake walked to the wall where his weapons hung. He picked up his rifle. The weight felt good in his hands. "Like coming home." "They want to study me," he said. "Figure out how humans fought so well against them." "Yes," Zara said. "They still don't understand how you held them off for so long with such small numbers." Jake checked his rifle. The power cell was full. Zara had maintained everything perfectly. "They're about to learn." He put on his uniform. It fit perfectly. Zara had kept it clean and ready, like she always knew this day would come. "There is something else," Zara said. "Something I need to tell you." Jake looked at her while he checked his other weapons. "What?" "There are others. Humans, I mean. Not many, but some. Hidden on different worlds. In secret places. They have been waiting." "Waiting for what?" "For someone to lead them. For someone who remembers what humans can be." Jake finished putting on his gear. He looked like a soldier again, like the warrior who had held the line when everyone else ran. "I'm just one man, Zara. I can't bring back a dead species." "Maybe not," she said. "But you can remind the galaxy what humans stood for." You can show them that some things are worth fighting for, even when the fight seems lost. The sound of engines filled the air outside. The hegemony forces were close now. Jake walked to the cave entrance. He could see lights moving in the valley below. The enemy was here. "You saved my life," he said to Zara. "Now I need to know, are you ready to fight beside me?" Zara picked up a weapon from the wall. It was human-made, but she had learned to use it well during the long years of waiting. "I have been ready for 250 years, she said. Jake smiled for the first time since waking up. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a predator who had just found prey. "Then let's show them why the hegemony used to fear humans," he said. The last human warrior stepped out of the cave and into the light. The galaxy was about to remember what humanity could do. The remnant coalition's base was hidden inside an old mining station on the edge of nowhere. Jake looked out the window at the cold stars and thought about home. Earth was out there somewhere, but it was not the same Earth he remembered. Commander Voss was older than his hologram had shown. His gray skin was marked with scars from many battles, but his eyes were sharp and intelligent. Human eyes, Jake thought. The kind of eyes that never gave up. "We have been waiting for you for a long time," Voss said. "My grandfather told me stories about human warriors. I thought they were just stories until I saw the recordings." Jake sat at a metal table in the station's meeting room. Around him were the leaders of the coalition, a Keltharian scientist named Dr. Nora Thane, an Altarian pilot called Captain Rex Kumar, others from species Jake had never seen before. All of them looked at him like he was something special. "I'm just a soldier," Jake said. "I'm not a miracle worker." "You are the soldier who held the Proxima line for 6 days with only 300 men, Dr. Thane said. "You are the soldier who broke the siege of New Athens with 50 ships against 200. "We still lost," Jake said. "But you showed us how to fight," Voss said. "Before humans came to our world, we did not understand war. We thought it was about having the biggest army or the strongest weapons. Humans taught us that war is about the mind, about thinking faster than your enemy." Rex Kumar leaned forward. "My people learned to fly from watching human pilots. We thought flying was just about speed and power. Humans showed us that flying is about feeling, about becoming one with your ship." Jake looked around the room. These people believed in him. They thought he could somehow win a war that had been lost for 2.5 centuries. "What do you want from me?" he asked. "Teach us," Voss said simply. "Show us how to be human." For the next month, Jake worked with the coalition fighters. He taught them things that no recording could show. How to think 3 steps ahead of the enemy. How to use fear as a weapon. How to turn weakness into strength. He showed them the human way of fighting. Not just with weapons, but with ideas. Humans fought for something bigger than themselves. For freedom. For the right to choose their own path. For the idea that every person mattered. The coalition had good fighters, but they fought like their own species. Altarians fought in large groups, following orders without question. Keltharians fought alone, using their intelligence to solve problems. Other species had their own ways. Jake taught them to fight like humans, to work together but think for themselves, to follow orders but also use their own judgment, to be part of a team while still being individuals. "The hegemony expects you to fight like your people always fought," Jake told them during training. "That's why they keep winning. They know all your moves before you make them." He set up a training exercise. 10 coalition fighters against 30 training drones programmed to fight like Vex soldiers. "This is impossible," one of the fighters said. "We are outnumbered 3-1. "Humans faced worse odds every day," Jake said. "The trick is not to fight their fight. Make them fight your fight." The exercise began. The coalition fighters tried to attack the drones directly. They were cut down in minutes. "Again," Jake said. This time he fought with them. He showed them how to use the terrain, how to divide the enemy, how to make them angry so they would make mistakes. The coalition fighters began to understand. By the 3rd try, they won. The training drones lay broken around the exercise field. The coalition fighters stood among them, breathing hard but victorious. "How?" asked Captain Kumar. "You stopped fighting like your people and started fighting like humans," Jake said. "You used your differences as strength instead of weakness. You thought for yourselves instead of just following orders." Word of Jake's return spread through the underground networks. On 47 worlds, resistance fighters heard that the human warrior was alive. The stories grew with each telling. Some said he was 10 feet tall. Others said he could kill a Vex drone with his bare hands. All of them said he never lost a battle. Jake knew the stories were not true, but he also knew they were important. Hope was a powerful weapon. Sometimes it was the only weapon people had. The Coalition's first real mission came 3 months after Jake's awakening. A slave world called Kepler 91c was scheduled for population reduction. The hegemony was going to kill half the people there to make room for more factories. "We have to help them," Dr. Thane said during the mission briefing. "It's a trap," Voss said. "The hegemony knows we will try to help. They are using the slaves as bait." Jake studied the tactical display. Kepler 91c was heavily defended. 3. Battle stations in orbit. Thousands of Vex drones on the ground. 100 coalition fighters would not be enough. "He's right," Jake said. "It is a trap, but we're going anyway." "That's suicide," Rex Kumar said. "No," Jake said. "That's human." The battle for Kepler 91c became the Coalition's first great victory. Jake did not win it with superior firepower. He won it with something the hegemony had forgotten existed. He won it with sacrifice. The Coalition fighters did not just fight to win. They fought to save people they had never met. They risked their lives for strangers because it was the right thing to do. This was something the hegemony could not understand. Jake led the ground assault personally. He and 50 Coalition fighters landed on the planet while the rest of the fleet kept the battle stations busy. Their job was to get the slaves to safety before the hegemony could kill them. The fighting was brutal. Vex drones filled the streets of the slave city. But Jake's fighters did not fight like soldiers following orders. They fought like humans protecting their families. When Private Chen got wounded, Lieutenant Martinez carried him to safety instead of leaving him behind. When Sergeant Davis ran out of ammunition, Corporal Lee gave him half of hers. When the evacuation ships were full, Captain Rodriguez stayed behind to fight a rear guard action so the civilians could escape. The hegemony had better weapons and more soldiers. But they could not understand why the Coalition fighters would die for people they did not know. They could not plan for an enemy that cared more about others than themselves. Jake watched his fighters during the battle. They were not human, but they were fighting like humans. They had learned that some things were more important than staying alive. When the last evacuation ship lifted off from Kepler 91c, 500,000 slaves were free. The Coalition had lost 20 fighters, but they had saved lives that could not be counted. Back at the base, Jake found Zara in the medical bay. She was helping treat the wounded fighters. Her hands were gentle as she worked on their injuries. "You did it," she said. "You taught them to fight like humans." Jake looked at the wounded fighters. They were smiling despite their pain. They had won something more important than a battle. They had proven that the hegemony could be beaten. "They taught themselves," Jake said. "I just reminded them what they already knew." "What's that?" "That every life matters. That freedom is worth fighting for. That you don't have to be human to have a human heart." That night, across the galaxy, the story of Kepler 91c spread like fire. The human warrior had returned. The impossible had become possible. Hope was alive again. In the darkness of space, the hegemony's leaders felt something they had not felt in 2.5 centuries. They felt afraid. The legend was walking again, and he was teaching others to walk with him. The rebellion spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Every week brought news of another world rising up against the hegemony. On Altair Prime, factory workers stopped making weapons and started making bombs. On New Carthage, slaves broke their chains and fought their masters. On distant Proxima Station, a mixed crew of different species held off a hegemony fleet for 3 days. Jake stood in the Coalition's war room, looking at the star map. Red dots showed hegemony worlds. Blue dots showed free worlds. Yellow dots showed worlds in rebellion. 6 months ago, there had been no blue dots at all. Now there were dozens. "They're learning fast," Commander Voss said. He pointed to a report from the Tau Ceti system. Local fighters destroyed a Vex supply convoy using human tactics. Hit and run. No direct confrontation. Jake nodded, but his face was tired. The war was growing bigger than anyone had expected. More worlds meant more battles. More battles meant more people dying. "What about the losses?" he asked. Dr. Thane looked up from her datapad. "Heavy on some worlds. The hegemony is not being gentle with rebels. They're making examples." Jake had seen the reports. Entire cities, burned as punishment for rebellion. Millions of people killed to send a message. The hegemony was getting desperate, and desperate enemies were the most dangerous kind. "We need to move faster," Jake said, "before they decide to destroy whole planets instead of just cities." Rex Kumar entered the room carrying a message cylinder. His face was grim. "Emergency communication from the Outer Rim. It's about Earth." Jake took the cylinder and opened it. Inside was a recording from a Coalition spy on Earth. The woman's face was hidden, but her voice shook with fear. "The hegemony is building something," she said. "A new kind of weapon. They're using human slaves to build it, working them to death in the factories. They call it Project Final Solution." Jake felt ice in his blood. He knew what that name meant. The hegemony was planning to end the rebellion by destroying everything that supported it. "How long do we have?" he asked. 3 months, the spy said. "Maybe less. They're moving fast. The weapon is almost ready." Jake turned off the recording. Around him, the Coalition leaders waited for his decision. They had learned to trust his judgment even when it seemed impossible. "We attack Earth," Jake said. The room went silent. Captain Kumar was the first to speak. "Jake, that's suicide. Earth is the most defended world in the galaxy. Thousands of ships, millions of drones. We'd be flying into certain death." "Maybe," Jake said. "But if we don't try, they'll finish their weapon. Then they'll use it to kill every free world in the galaxy. Every man, woman, and child who ever dreamed of freedom." Voss studied the tactical displays. "We have maybe 200 ships. Earth has 10,000. Those are impossible odds." "Humans faced impossible odds every day," Jake said. "That's what made them human." Dr. Thane activated a hologram of Earth. The planet looked sick. Gray clouds covered the surface. Space around it was filled with battle stations and defense platforms. "Even if we could get past the defenses," she said, "how do we find this weapon? Earth is a big planet." Jake pointed to a spot on the hologram. "North America, where the old United States used to be." "There," he said. "That's where they'd build it, in the ruins of Washington. They like symbols as much as we do." Over the next month, Jake planned the most desperate mission in galactic history. Every Coalition ship would attack Earth at the same time. It was not a battle plan. It was a suicide mission disguised as a battle plan. But something strange happened as word of the mission spread. More ships arrived at the Coalition base. Not just Coalition ships, but others. Traitors who had lost family to the hegemony. Pirates who hated being told what to do. Military units from conquered worlds who still remembered what they used to fight for. "Why are they coming?" Zara asked Jake as they watched another ship dock at the station. "Because they remember," Jake said. "Someone told them that humans never gave up, that humans would rather die fighting than live on their knees. Now they want to find out if that's true." The night before the mission, Jake could not sleep. He walked through the station, visiting the fighters who would follow him to Earth. They came from dozens of different worlds. They spoke different languages and believed in different gods. But they all had one thing in common. They believed in human ideas about freedom and sacrifice. He found Zara in the observation deck, looking out at the stars. She had been quiet for days, and Jake knew why. She was afraid of losing him again. They had become more than friends during the long months of war. They had become partners in something bigger than themselves. "You don't have to come," Jake said. "You've done enough. You saved me. You kept the memory of humanity alive. You don't owe anyone anything more." Zara turned to look at him. Her silver markings glowed softly in the starlight. "I'm not coming because I owe you something," she said. "I'm coming because I want to, because this is my fight too now." "It's going to be bad," Jake said. "Most of us won't come back." "I know," Zara said, "but that's what makes it worth doing. That's what you taught me, that some things are more important than staying alive." The next morning, the largest fleet in Coalition history jumped to hyperspace. 500 ships carrying 20,000 fighters. Most of them had never seen Earth. Many of them would die trying to save it. Jake sat in the command chair of the flagship, a captured hegemony cruiser they had renamed the New Olympia. Around him, his officers prepared for battle. They were scared, but they were ready. They had learned to fight like humans. When the fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system, they found exactly what they expected. Thousands of hegemony ships waiting for them, defense platforms that could destroy planets, weapon systems that could kill millions with a single shot. "This is insane," Captain Kumar said from the pilot's seat. "Yes," Jake said. "Completely insane. That's why it might work." The hegemony had planned for a normal attack. They had positioned their ships to defend against a logical enemy, but humans were not logical. Humans did things that made no sense to anyone else. Jake's fleet did not attack the way the hegemony expected. They did not try to fight through the defenses. Instead, they split into 100 small groups and attacked from every direction at once. They used civilian ships as decoys. They hid behind asteroids and space debris. They did everything wrong, according to military doctrine, and it worked. The hegemony's perfect defense began to crack. Their ships were designed to fight large fleets, not swarms of small attackers. Their commanders were programmed to think logically, not to handle chaos. Jake led his assault group toward Earth's surface while the space battle raged around them. His target was the old capital of the United States, where the hegemony had built their secret weapon. 10 minutes to landing, the pilot announced. Jake looked around at his fighters. Zara was checking her weapon. Commander Voss was studying the tactical displays. Dr. Thane was preparing medical supplies. They all knew they might die in the next hour. But they were not afraid. They had something worth dying for. "Remember," Jake said over the communication system, "we're not just fighting for ourselves, we're fighting for every person who ever dreamed of being free. We're fighting for the idea that individuals matter more than governments. We're fighting for the human way." The ship shook as it entered Earth's atmosphere. Below them, the gray surface of humanity's birth world rushed up to meet them. Jake gripped his weapon and prepared to take back the home he had lost 2.5 centuries ago. The final battle was about to begin. The ruins of Washington looked like the bones of a dead giant. Where the White House once stood, a massive hegemony fortress reached toward the gray sky. Where the Capitol building had been, factories belched black smoke into the poisoned air. The city Jake remembered was gone, replaced by something cold and ugly. Jake's assault team landed in what used to be the National Mall. Vex drones swarmed toward them like angry insects. The air filled with the sound of weapons fire and explosions. Around him, coalition fighters spread out and took cover behind broken monuments. "The weapon is in the main fortress," Dr. Thane shouted over the noise. 3 kilometers north. "Right, where the White House used to be." Jake looked at the fortress. It was huge, built from black metal and surrounded by energy shields. Thousands of drones defended it. Getting inside would be almost impossible. Almost impossible was just another way of saying difficult to a human. "Voss, take half the team and hit the east side," Jake ordered. "Make a lot of noise, draw their attention. Kumar, circle around to the west. Wait for my signal, then attack the shield generators." "What about you?" Zara asked. "I'm going through the front door," Jake said. Zara grabbed his arm. "That's suicide." Jake smiled at her. "That's human." The battle for Washington was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Coalition fighters from dozens of different species worked together like they had trained for years. Altarians provided covering fire while Keltharians used their intelligence to hack hegemony systems. Species that had been enemies for centuries fought side by side against their common oppressor. Above them, the space battle raged on. Coalition ships darted between the massive hegemony battleships like birds attacking eagles. They could not win through strength, so they won through courage and cleverness. Jake fought his way through the ruins of his old city. Every street brought back memories. There was the museum, where he had taken his sister as a child. There was the park where he used to run every morning. All of it was gone now, covered by hegemony concrete and steel. But something else was growing in the ruins. Hope. Jake could see it in the faces of the human slaves who stopped their work to watch the battle. He could hear it in their whispered conversations. The human warrior had returned. Freedom was fighting back. A group of Vex drones blocked the street ahead. Jake did not try to fight them directly. Instead, he used an old human trick. He made them angry. Jake stood in the open and let them see him. The drones charged toward him, focusing all their attention on the famous human warrior. They forgot about tactics. They forgot about watching for traps. They just wanted to kill him. At the last second, Jake dove aside. The drones ran straight into a minefield that Zara had planted. The explosion shook the ground and sent metal flying in all directions. Drones are stupid when they're angry, Jake said into his radio. Just like people. That's a very human observation, Zara replied from her position on a nearby rooftop. The fortress was even more heavily defended than it looked. Energy barriers blocked every entrance. Automated weapons tracked any movement. It seemed impossible to break inside. Jake studied the building from his hiding place behind a broken statue. The statue had once been Abraham Lincoln, sitting in his chair and thinking about freedom. Now it was just pieces of stone and metal. But somehow it still looked dignified. Lincoln faced impossible odds too, Jake said to himself, and he never gave up. The answer came to him while he was looking at the statue. The hegemony had built their fortress on top of the old White House, but they had not destroyed everything. Underneath, the old tunnels and bunkers were still there, buried under tons of concrete. Thane, Jake called on his radio. I need you to scan for underground passages. The old government built tunnels under this whole area. Scanning now, came the reply. I'm reading a network of passages about 20 meters down. They lead right under the fortress. Can we get to them? There's an old subway entrance 4 blocks south. It looks like the hegemony sealed it, but we might be able to break through. Jake gathered his team and moved toward the subway entrance. The hegemony had welded metal plates over the opening, but human determination was stronger than alien metal. They cut through the barriers and descended into the darkness below. The tunnels were flooded and full of debris. Strange creatures had made homes in the darkness. But the passages were still there, leading toward the heart of the fortress like arteries leading to a heart. This feels like a trap, Commander Voss said as they waded through knee-deep water. Everything feels like a trap when you're scared, Jake replied. The trick is to be more dangerous than the trap. They moved through the tunnels for an hour, following Dr. Thane's scanner readings. Finally, they reached a point directly under the fortress. Above them, Jake could hear the hum of machinery and the march of metal feet. The weapon is right above us, Thane whispered. Maybe 50 meters up. Jake looked at the ceiling. It was thick concrete reinforced with metal beams. Breaking through would take time they did not have, unless they did it the human way. Everyone back, Jake said. He pulled out his last explosive charge and set it against the ceiling. When this goes off, we go up fast and hard. No hesitation, no second thoughts. What if the whole building comes down on us? Kumar asked. Then we die fighting instead of hiding, Jake said. Which way would you rather go? The explosion was deafening in the enclosed space. Concrete and metal rained down around them. But when the dust cleared, there was a hole leading up into the fortress. Jake climbed through first, his weapon ready. He found himself in a vast chamber filled with machinery he did not recognize. In the center of the room stood a device that made his blood run cold. It was a weapon, but not the kind that destroyed ships or buildings. This weapon destroyed hope itself. It's a mind control device, Dr. Thane said, scanning the machine with her instruments. It broadcasts signals that make people give up. Make them accept slavery as natural. Make them forget what freedom feels like. Jake understood now why the hegemony called it final solution. They were not planning to kill the rebels. They were planning to make them stop wanting to rebel, to turn free people into willing slaves. How do we destroy it? Zara asked. Before Jake could answer, the chamber filled with hegemony soldiers. Not drones this time, but living beings in armor. At their head stood a creature Jake had never seen before. It was tall and thin, with skin like black metal and eyes like burning coals. "I am Supreme Commander Zerath," the creature said. Its voice sounded like grinding metal. "I have been waiting to meet the famous human warrior." Jake raised his weapon, but Zerath held up a hand. "Wait," it said. "Before you die, I want you to understand something. Your species lost because you believed in something that does not exist. You believe that individuals matter, that freedom is worth dying for, that hope can overcome reality. And you think that's wrong?" Jake asked. "No, it is wrong," Zerath replied. "Look around you. Your species is extinct. Your world is a factory. Your people are slaves. Where is your precious freedom now?" Jake looked around the chamber. His friends stood with him, ready to die fighting. Above them, coalition fighters battled impossible odds. Across the galaxy, millions of people had risen up because they believed in human ideas. "It's everywhere," Jake said. "In every person who chooses to fight instead of surrender. In every act of kindness between strangers. In every moment when someone decides that others matter more than themselves." "Foolishness," Zerath said. "I will show you reality." The Supreme Commander activated the mind control device. Waves of despair washed over the chamber. Jake felt his hope dying. His friends slumped to their knees, their weapons falling from their hands. But Jake did not fall. He had lived through the destruction of his entire species. He had watched his friends die and his world burn. He had woken up to find everything he loved turned to dust. If that had not broken his hope, nothing could. Jake walked toward Zerath, each step a victory against despair. "You want to know the secret of humanity," he said. "We don't hope because we think we'll win. We hope because it's the right thing to do." The final battle was not fought with weapons. It was fought with ideas. Jake's unbreakable hope against Zerath's absolute despair. Human determination against alien logic. The belief that individuals matter against the doctrine that only the group has value. In the end, hope won. It always did when someone was brave enough to carry it. 1 year later, Jake stood in a garden in the ruins of Washington. The hegemony was gone, scattered to the far corners of the galaxy. Earth was healing, its skies slowly turning blue again. Children from a dozen different species played among the flowers, learning about freedom and friendship. Zara worked beside him, planting seeds from Earth's original forests. They were both older now, marked by the war they had fought and won. But they were also something new. The last human and the alien who had saved him, building a future neither of their species could have imagined alone. "Do you think we did the right thing?" Zara asked. Jake looked at the children playing in the garden. They were laughing together despite their differences. They were learning that freedom was not just about fighting against oppression. It was about choosing to care for each other. "Yes," Jake said. "We taught the galaxy how to be human, and they taught us how to be more than human." The loss,